If you've been diagnosed with hip osteoarthritis and are experiencing pain on the inside of your leg, your groin area, this is the video for you. This is one of the most common symptoms with hip osteoarthritis, so you are not alone if you're experiencing this. As a physical therapist who specializes in helping people specifically with osteoarthritis, I hear about this symptom all the time. The good news is there's something you can do about it. You can find relief from the tightness and/or pain that you're experiencing. This can help you make walking easier, going up and down the stairs, and even getting in and out of the car. But first, I want to talk about one exercise that actually might be making pain worse that's commonly prescribed, and then 3 exercises you can do instead to help find relief. So let's get started. One of the most commonly prescribed exercises for hip osteoarthritis pain relief is something called a straight leg raise, where you extend one leg out. Seated at the edge of the chair, you then lift that leg up. If you are experiencing groin pain, this may actually cause more irritation. I do want to caveat this with, this exercise certainly has a time and a place. But if you are experiencing groin pain, this may actually further irritate your symptoms, and here's why. One primary reason inner thigh tightness can occur is because these muscles are having to pick up the slack from other larger muscles that aren't working as properly or aren't doing their job. For example, one common reason this happens is with front of the hip weakness that can be common with hip osteoarthritis. Due to changing the way you move, pain can inhibit certain muscles, maybe you're not moving as much as you used to. But when you think about an activity that we spend a large part of the day doing, and that's walking or just generally moving forward, when you're doing that, you rely a lot on these front of the hip muscles, these hip flexors, to bring your leg forwards. If those muscles are weakened, those muscles fatigue easily, or aren't able to carry through the full motion on their own, you start needing other muscles to help out. Muscles that aren't necessarily used to working this hard. The inner thighs are one of them. Bringing your leg forwards, now your body needs help from those inner thighs, making those inner thighs feel tight, irritated, and overworked. When you think about that straight leg raise that I just demonstrated, you are mimicking walking to a certain extent. You are raising that leg forwards, likely feeding into that compensation. Instead of adding to the repetitions using that specific exercise, here are 3 exercises you can focus on to take the stress off of the front of the hip and the inner thigh and activate those other hip muscles that you really need. Using a chair for support, you're simply just going to step backwards. Arguably the best exercise for hip osteoarthritis. You are working the glutes, the muscles in your buttocks that are responsible for stabilizing the joint as you're walking. But if we're not moving in this backwards direction, a direction that they're responsible for, they can tend to get neglected and then they can become weakened. You are also working a range of motion called hip extension, where your leg is behind you. With hip osteoarthritis, you may start to lose this range of motion. When you're walking, if you're not able to take a large step, you start to take small steps and start to become more unbalanced, start to walk a little bit slower. So here, you can really start to work on that range of motion, that strength, and then also balance. Stepping backwards does require a degree of balance because you don't do it very often. I, for this one, like to set a timer for 30 seconds or 60 seconds and simply see how many you can do. Shorten the step to make it a little bit easier as you start to get used to it. Then the goal is to take a nice big step backwards without using support. The second thing that I want you to focus on is moving sideways. For very similar reasons as backwards. You have muscles that are responsible for moving you sideways. If you don't typically do that very often during the day, those muscles can become weakened. This can play a big role in limping when you're walking. This can also play a big role in stabilizing the hip. Your hip is meant to move out to the side like this, but this can be a difficult motion if you have hip arthritis. So we're working on both strength and range of motion, throwing in a little balance as well. This exercise is simply stepping sideways. For this, you want to make sure you're watching your posture, making sure your shoulders are staying square and they're not dipping. If they are, use support either on one side or in front of you to offload some of that weight and make sure that you're moving in an optimal way. Same thing with this one, setting a timer for about 30 to 60 seconds and seeing how many repetitions you can complete. To make it more difficult, widen your step. So as you start to get more comfortable, see if you can take a larger step. You may be surprised at how quickly the outsides of your hips fatigue with this one. Again, focusing on 2 to 3 sets of this every other day can be a great place to start. Now, this last exercise is going to be helpful in building the backs of your legs and your glutes. Using a chair, you're going to hold on to the back of it. Take a step to where your arms are relatively straight, but you're not reaching. Feet are about shoulder width apart. From here, reach back as you let your arms bend. Reach back with your hips. Notice my knees are just slightly bent, more in a relaxed position. They're just not locked out. As I go to bring myself forward, think about squeezing your butt muscles and pushing through the heels of your feet and come up. Now, this one can be a little difficult to grasp the form at first, so it may require some practice. You don't want to lead with your shoulders. This is a common mistake that I see. I want you to think about pushing back with your hips, keeping your chest up, and you're keeping your gaze in front of the chair, so you're not looking straight down. Squeeze those butt muscles to bring yourself to a standing position. You can also do this in front of a wall. This is a great trick if you're kind of finding you're not really feeling it in the backs of your legs. That's where you should really feel a stretch here. And then you squeeze them to come up. You can stand directly up against a wall, take a small step forwards, and try the same thing. But now you're reaching back with your hips to find that wall. And then squeeze up. You really just want to focus on being able to complete 10 to 15 of these successfully. Aiming for 2 to 3 sets of this one as well can be a great place to start. When it comes to combating groin pain, groin stiffness with hip osteoarthritis, my biggest piece of advice is to add variety to your movements. I showed you 3 ways to do it here. This can really open the doors to activating other muscles that may not be working as hard as they need to, starting to strengthen those muscles so you're not compensating. Consistency is key though. Strength does not come overnight as much as I wish it would. Shooting for every other day for the next few weeks. Really commit yourself so you can start to see changes. You can start to see a difference. If you're looking for more guided ways on how to get better at walking, reduce pain, and move like you used to, I have a free 3-day walking workout challenge that's perfect for beginners. You'll get 3 free follow-along workouts with me, working on a lot of the same principles we just discussed here today. This can help you get started on the right path to adventuring with arthritis. Thanks so much for watching. If this video helped you and you know someone else who might be dealing with this as well, feel free to share it and spread the word. You can do this.